This is week 169 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I'm Belokur, reporting to you from Kyiv, and I'll be taking you through the top stories from Ukraine this week. This week kicked off with another phone call between American President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, the first direct communication between the pair on record in 2 months. They reportedly spoke for around 2.5 hours, and Vice President J.D. Vance said beforehand that Trump was going into this call to find out whether Putin was genuine in his desire to end the war. Spoiler alert, he's not. Even Trump admitted it afterwards. So, to back up and recap a little bit, the diplomatic talks held in Istanbul last Thursday and Friday, although they marked the first direct communication between Ukrainian and Russian delegations since 2022, yielded no breakthrough in ending the war. Despite the talks being Russia's idea, Putin was a no-show, Trump declined to attend, and the only meaningful outcome was an agreement regarding a 1,000-for-1,000 swap of Ukrainian and Russian POWs. Many had hoped that Putin's flagrant refusal to attend the negotiations would be the final straw for Trump, who has waffled between deference towards Putin and annoyance at the slowness of achieving peace, as Russia stalls talks and declines ceasefire after ceasefire. However, Trump seems unfazed, at least publicly, saying that Putin didn't attend because he himself didn't attend, implying that he's the kingpin of the entire process, and nothing can be achieved without his help. Monday's follow-up call between the two was Trump's chance to make good on this assertion, but as usual, Putin seems uncowed when it comes to ending the war. Russia's demands that Ukraine concede all occupied oblasts remain unchanged, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday that Moscow has no interest in negotiations or a ceasefire, saying that the root causes of the war remain unaddressed. Still, Trump told reporters on Wednesday that he thinks a lot of progress was made on the call, that he trusts Putin, that the US won't be imposing more sanctions on Russia, and again, that he's ready to walk away from the peace process entirely if no progress is made soon. In short, Trump's definition of a very good call with an excellent tone and spirit is one in which he allowed the Russian president to walk all over him. Again. As Ukrainian lawmaker Andriy Odsadchuk told the Kyiv Independent, the main conclusion of the latest phone call between Trump and Putin is that Trump doesn't know how to deal with real gangsters. Putin has humiliated him in public several times in a row, and the US president doesn't want to recognize that and doesn't know what to do. Ukraine's position hasn't changed. The first priority is securing a full ceasefire. There is no constitutional possibility to cede territory to Russia, even if the desire on the part of the Ukrainian government and people was there, which it is overwhelmingly not. The theater of the past couple weeks hasn't changed the reality here on the ground, where Russia continues to wage war with no intention of stopping. The question remains, will Trump ever wake up and take action? And will Europe finally step up to the plate? This week also saw the largest prisoner of war exchange between Ukraine and Russia since the beginning of Moscow's invasion in 2014. You can find our full report of this emotional event linked in the description below. At the Kyiv Independent, we're funded by our readers, or in some cases, our viewers, who donate as little as $5 a month to help us keep the lights on and bring you news from Ukraine. We don't have paywalls or billionaire owners. We rely on our community. We've set a goal this year to reach 20,000 members, and we're almost there. And by almost, I mean that we're excitedly counting every new edition because it's getting so close. Along with a host of benefits that you get when you join, your membership goes directly towards supporting the future of independent journalism here in Ukraine. If you'd like to become a member of our community, we'd love to have you along. There will be a link to our membership page in the description below. A controversial Ukrainian ex-official was shot dead by unknown assailants outside his children's school, the American school in Madrid, on Wednesday. Andriy Portnov, a former politician and senior aide to disgraced ex-Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, has been described as one of the main architects of Ukraine's current judicial system. Portnov ruthlessly went after any critics or perceived detractors through legal action, including the Kyiv Independent's editor-in-chief for an article published in 2023 that called Portnov pro-Russian, a label that he consistently went to great lengths to suppress throughout his career. That's despite working for Yanukovych, Ukraine's most notorious president, whose openly pro-Russian stance ignited the Euromaidan revolution in 2014 that ousted him and his Moscow-aligned government. Born in now Russian-occupied Luhansk in 1973, Portnov rose through the political ranks in the early 2000s to become a lawmaker in the party of former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko. When Tymoshenko failed to secure the Ukrainian presidency against Yanukovych in 2010, Portnov switched sides, serving as deputy head of Yanukovych's administration. He personally appointed many judges at all levels of Ukraine's court system, building and developing a network of allies that could then be wielded to maintain the status quo. He was also instrumental in the development of Ukraine's 2012 Criminal Procedure Code, which faced criticism for its loopholes that hindered fair trials and obstructed corruption investigations. After Yanukovych fled during the 2014 revolution, Portnov left Ukraine for Russia and later Austria. Despite his departure, investigations into his alleged role in corrupting the judiciary persisted, although many stalled or were dismissed. A treason case against him was opened in March of 2018, alleging involvement in the Russian occupation of Crimea, but the case was later closed. Portnov returned to Ukraine in 2019 and resumed an active engagement in judicial affairs, registering with the Ukrainian Bar Association and beginning a teaching stint at Taras Shevchenko University here in Kyiv. In 2021, 2 years after his return to Ukraine, the U.S. sanctioned Portnov for alleged involvement in corruption and human rights abuses, with Canada doling out similar sanctions. Portnov would once again find himself fleeing Ukraine at the outset of Russia's 2022 full-scale invasion, with his whereabouts unknown to the public. Until Wednesday, that is. Portnov was notorious for the aggressive actions he took against his critics. He filed many lawsuits against his enemies, including defamation cases against journalists and public figures. Some observers claimed that these lawsuits reflected a continuation of efforts to exert influence on the judicial system, particularly given Portnov's long-standing relationship with members of the high courts. Portnov sued the Kyiv Independent's Olga Rudenko personally for defamation, following the release of the article that called him pro-Russian in the autumn of 2023. The court ruled in Portnov's favor in September of 2024. In a separate case, Portnov doxed journalists who were investigating him, publishing their personal information online. It goes without saying that a high-level official engaging in this activity is a serious threat to the development of both independent media and a democratic judiciary. Portnov's assassination outside his children's school in Spain on Wednesday was sudden and shocking. It's hard to pinpoint an exact motive when it comes to someone this controversial, who has been a player in so many schemes and made so many enemies over the years. 2 or 3 people are believed to have been involved in the shooting, although no arrests have been made so far. His is not the only high-profile assassination in Spain in recent years. A Russian pilot who defected to Ukraine in 2023 was shot near Alicante last year, with the unknown culprits still at large. In recent weeks, I've mentioned that Russia is amassing troops at multiple points along the front line, with worries that a new offensive on Ukraine's Sumy or Kharkiv Oblast may be imminent, or already partially underway. This week saw the evacuation of almost 56,000 residents from villages in Sumy Oblast, which borders Russia to the north. Russia has been deploying small-scale assault groups into the oblast, although Ukrainian authorities still deny that a new offensive has been launched. Shelling against the region has increased, posing a huge danger to civilians who have already endured more than 3 years of intense attacks from the neighboring Russia. According to regional authorities, all residents within a 10-kilometer zone bordering Russia have already been evacuated. Still, it's a tricky balance for authorities to ensure the safe and timely evacuation of civilians without sparking widespread panic. On another note, Russia has also been increasing its military presence a bit further to the north, not along the front lines in Ukraine, but along its western border with Finland. Finnish Major General Sami Nurmi noted that Russia is taking steps to bolster its infrastructure along the Finnish border, with satellite images published by the New York Times on Monday revealing that construction is underway on fighter jet shelters and a helicopter base. The images also revealed rows of tents and increased military vehicles, indicating a higher concentration of personnel in the area. An attack on Finland in the immediate future is highly unlikely, given the country's recent accession to NATO. But Nurmi said that the redeployment of Russian troops to the border area is expected to increase after the war in Ukraine ends, in anticipation of a wider conflict with NATO. Russia's defense minister said in December of 2024 that Russia must be prepared for a potential conflict with NATO in the next 10 years. Some European estimates say that the threat is more imminent, coming in perhaps 3 to 7 years. Danish intelligence said in February that if Russia believes NATO is sufficiently weakened, it could launch a large-scale conflict with a neighboring country within as little as 6 months after the end of war in Ukraine. That same intelligence estimates that it would take Russia within 2 years to have the capability to launch a regional war with multiple countries on the Baltic Sea, and 5 years to be able to launch a large-scale attack on Europe. While these estimates seem daunting, and they are, they notably don't account for the prospect of NATO rearming, nor potential intervention by the US. War between Russia and NATO isn't inevitable, but without decisive action from all member states, it's only a matter of time. For our member question this week, we have one from Malcolm, who's a very good friend of the Kyiv Independent. So, the question is, how is the Russian military able to activate sufficient Starlink service plans to equip such a large number of drones? Now for this one, I'm going to be handing it over to the expert, my colleague Colin.
Specifically for the Starlink service plans, I don't know. The Ukrainian intelligence might have a better idea of the specifics of how Russia's navigating those contracts, but kind of broadly, Russia is very good at getting around financial restrictions. They have been skirting sanctions for, more than a decade at this point. And so actually getting access to Starlink services seems a relatively minor challenge. I would say they are also, they are good at getting the terminals themselves, which they're definitely not supposed to have. Oftentimes these things go through third countries. And they are somehow getting SIM cards for Ukrainian mobile providers. So they are also, in addition to just SpaceX Starlink terminals, they are also managing to get access to internet via Ukrainian telecoms.
That's all for this week. We'll be back next Sunday with more news from Ukraine. If you enjoyed this video, please consider becoming a member of the Kyiv Independent community. It's thanks to viewers like you that we get to do this work, and we're so grateful for your support. I'd also like to thank everyone who donates directly via YouTube. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.